and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
Yep.
The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings.
Right, the Babylonian Empire, which we are enslaved in, a wicked pagan empire, which Esau gravitates to the most. All right, and that same first empire, Babylon, is also prophesied today as a virgin daughter of Babylon, set up to be destroyed. So how beautiful is that? Because it says Babylon shall be burned, but we know in history that Babylon was transferred to the Medo-Persians in a tactical mercenary precision strike. Good example, what just happened in Hades. You just had mercenaries assassinate the leader. So back then, when you kill the leader, you stand up in their place. Keep going.
I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given unto it.
Yep.
And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it.
Now this bear is not speaking about Russia like the bear in Revelation 13. This bear is speaking about the Medo-Persians, right? But the 3 ribs is the 3 places it conquered: Lydia, Egypt, and what was the other one? Babylon. See, those are 3 ribs. It said in its mouth. Like when you got some beef ribs, what do? You bite the meat and with the bone. But that's you devouring it. So they were devoured. The Medo-Persians devoured them. Okay? Lydia, Egypt, and Babylon. No, so that's the only time Babylon gets mentioned, because Babylon already got defeated, so now it's being tossed to different empires. The true Egyptians never ruled Egypt again.
Right. The kingdom is being translated from this nation to that nation. And again, about the Medo-Persians, they had 120 provinces. Like America has 50 states, but they had 120 states, if you will.
Sure.
They had a very vast kingdom, a very vast army. That movie 300, man, it's a bad movie. You know?
That's a beautiful point. Don't it say it was basically suicide to fight against the Persians? Because the Persians were with the Medes, but they pretty much overpowered the Medes.
Right.
You know, like today, okay, good example. Like today, you got what? America and Israel. But who's more powerful per se? America. But Israel's right with them, right? That's why it says the least of the flock shall draw them out. And I want a fun fact too. Now, do you brothers know when the relationship between America and Israel became solidified? It became solidified when Nixon collapsed, when Nixon stopped gold being the standard for the dollar in 1971, but he gave the Saudi Arabia military presence with the US dollar, and one of the places he put his military presence was a conflict between Israel and Palestine. So that's when the US and who gives US dollars to Israel to this day? America. So it's all tied in. It's all a system revolving around keeping Esau afloat with fiat currency. Do you know what fiat means? It means it's ruled by the government. So if the government says this is a $5 bill and you say no it's not, then they bring an enforcer, crack you in the head with a billy club and say, what is it? It's a $5 bill. See? The money's backed by force. If I go to the store right now and I write fucking SpongeBob on it with a $5 number, $5 in crayon, they'll call the cops on me. Oh, they'll charge me with counterfeit. See? So the dollar was forced into the world through force. George Washington said the government is nothing but a force. See? So when you look at the US dollar, it was backed by force, and it was backed by military presence through the transition of empires. Keep going.
It says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl.
Oh, now we could go to Maccabees 1. We'll read it real quick. So what happened? What does this mean? Read this again. What does this mean? Watch. Please read it again.
After this,
this is exciting. This is history. This is monetary. This is political. This is government. You as an Israelite should not be rebuking your average everyday Edomite. We go for kings. We go for treasuries. We go for senates and secretaries of states. We go to the nobles. Every great Israelite man went to who? The king of Egypt, the king of Babylon, the king of this. We don't go to, all Jake want to do, when you talk about Esau, you can't just talk about slavery. Now, I'm not discrediting it, but there's more than just slavery. You see? There's more that he has done than just slavery to be in power.
After this, I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl.
I'm going to say this. Now, the US dollar, right, came out in 1914, but you still had forms of currency through banknotes, because back then you would use a dollar to prove that you had silver or gold. Right here. Now watch this. So what kept slavery popping? You see, the fact that the Lord was with Esau, but Esau also dominated the monetary system. Okay? Remember, he took over the banks in 1694. He came over here in 1619. So at that time, land was a currency. He was dominating land. He was going to war with Britain to gain more land. Genesis 13 tells you gold and land is currency. So him taking over America was building up his financial status. You see, that's why we're gonna keep reading. So I used to have a job where I dealt with money. Now right here, you have an old dollar. Now when you look at that, it says silver certificate. So this is a certificate, like a receipt. When I go to the store, your proof of purchase is what? The receipt. So back then, your proof of gold or silver was what? A receipt, which a dollar is a weight. So this is a weight of proving that I have a certain amount of weight of silver or weight of gold. But now, through the government, through the politicians, they took the silver and gold away as a standard backed by this, but then they still kept this in rulership. You see? Esau's a sly devil, and he did it through presidents. He did it through policies. He did it through governments, force, and war. Read that. Oh, and on top of it, what's even better is the Great Seal that you know today that's on your dollar, the only dollar, the dollar bill, that came out in the 1700s. So the dollar, the seal that was put on the dollar was created before the dollar. And those seals are satanic. So you have crooked satanic money that's being used to fund crooked satanic wars. There's a reason why it was 13 colonies that established America. 13 for the Masons representing Lucifer, or who you know as Satan. So America was built, funded, and overtaken by a satanic ritual of what you know as war. Read this.
It says, and after this, I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard.
Like a leopard. Now, even in history, it is a known fact that Alexander the Great wore, what did they call it? Not a leotard. There's a term for it. But he had a leopard's head. And guess what? Fun fact, in the game Tekken, you have a player, a fighter by the name of King, and he wears a mask that's a leopard. King what? King Alexander. So even in Tekken, they're showing you King Alexander.
And also he wrestles, and the Greco-Roman Empire don't wrestle. Jake don't wrestle.
Fuck no.
You have Jakes that are good at wrestling,
but that's not their culture.
Jake is a boxer.
Yep, Jake's a brawler, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. You got some?
I got it right here.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Now, I got the Josephus where it speaks about King Alexander the Great. And guess what? King Alexander had a reputable relationship with Israel. King Alexander didn't persecute us. King Alexander respected, you know, King Alexander respected our Levitical priesthood? That's in the Josephus. I got it. I'll show you. You know the vibes, brother.
We brought out 1 week. Yeah.
Preach it to the choir.
Yeah.
See, brothers know the backup singers. Alexander knew. Why? Why did Alexander knew, Marar? Because he was given a vision.
Yeah.
Okay?
And they told him this is you.
Yeah. He said, oh shit, that's me.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, oh, I'm about to whoop ass. And he did in 12 years. 12. Back to this, please.
And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl.
Now the 4 wings. Now you got to remember, King Alexander had many generals. There was many Ptolemies and many Epiphanes, right? Because listen to it. What's going on, brother? Think about this. If it says the 4 generals, right? But how many Syrian wars were there? 6. And who were the Syrian wars fought between? Ptolemies and Epiphanes. It was fathers and sons that continued the wars. It wasn't until the 6th war of the Syrian army that we got besieged by the King Antiochus IV. See? So you had King Antiochus III, King Antiochus II, King Antiochus I. Those were the generals that set themselves up. Now, the brother's holding this historical scripture, so let's read this real quick before we continue, because we can go into the Greeks. Because once we get to the Romans, what happened that's in the New Testament? Great taxation. Why were zealots raised? Because they didn't want to pay the Romans. Same thing. See, read this.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees in the 1st chapter, page 113 of the Apocrypha, and the 1st verse. And it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian.
Macedonians are known in the Bible as Edomites. Okay? So Alexander the Great lineage is a Edomite. Biblical and secular history tells you that. Okay? All what we're speaking is facts. We just we have the Holy Spirit where we can speak about history, but also mirror it and filter it with the Bible. The Bible is a historical book of past, present, and future.
Yeah, vocab.
Yeah, bastard. He is a bastard.
1 Maccabees 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim.
Real quick, see, this is why the Romans were different, because even in the Greeks, they allowed father than son for rulership. But when Romans came about, it became a so-called, it was no longer a monarch. Remember, we spoke, what's a monarch? Kings, translated, as if Merar was my father and I was his son, when he stopped reigning, I knew I was next. That's why King David and his sons, he had one of his sons already partying. And then Gad the prophet, was it Gad? It was Gad. Gad had to come in like, yo. You got that's not prophecy. It's prophecy that Solomon was next. You see? But that's the Lord intervening, because usually the firstborn had to be next. And the firstborn was Esau. That's an ancient Edomite right there. But then that's why the whole transition and vow took place between Jacob and Esau. You see? Because we live by a monarch system. After Isaac ruled, who was supposed to rule in his stead? Esau. That's why Isaac told Esau, go and get me this, because he knew it was the firstborn rolled next. You see? But then that vow took place that the Lord allowed with the birthright. Then Rebecca, being in a righteous spirit, the Lord put on her spirit to solidify that vow by portraying Jacob as Esau, or portraying Jacob as the firstborn, to receive firstborn blessings that was already set up for us to receive. You see? So back to
Maccabees, right?
Yep.
Back in Maccabees 1 and verse 1, and it says, who came out of the land of Chittim, has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes.
Chittim. I wonder if that goes back to Shittim, because you have a land of Shittim, because we use Shittim wood for the ark. Even Shittim sap is used to help you with bowel movements. That's where you get the term shit. You see? So I'm gonna have to look into that. So read this again.
And it's 1 Maccabees 1 and 1, and it says,
and mind you, you got to go in history to find out when Esau defeated the original Greeks to call himself Greeks. See, Esau defeats you and then will call himself after your name. He defeated Jacob, and now he calls himself what? A Jew. Because he defeated us and he got our land. See? Keep going.
It says, who smitten Darius, Darius, king of the Persians and Medes.
But then Daniel's vision, so it went from the Persians to the leopard. Right here it's telling you, the Greek, a same man who wore a leopard on head, okay, defeated the Persians. He defeated a vast army. An army that it was suicide to go against. Impossible. Like when Morpheus told Neo, anybody that's ever stepped in front of an agent has tried and failed. But Esau didn't. Full circle. Why? Because the Lord was with the Edomites, just like he was with them when he defeated the Hororites. See? Same thing. Now why? Why did the Lord allow the Edomite Greeks to defeat the Persians? to fulfill the prophecy of what you know about in Daniel 7. It's all, the only reason Esau prospers is for prophecy.
Yep.
It's the only reason. You see, keep going.
And it says that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
The first over Greece, yep.
And made many wars.
He made many what?
Many wars.
Is that not Esau's recipe for rulership?
Yep.
War, politics, government, money, slavery. 5 key components of Edomite rulership. Because might I add, under the Ptolemy rulership, that's how you have today, as you know, as Alexandria, Egypt. Because the King Alexander defeated it, set himself up in that land, just like King David defeated the land of Jebus and set up the city of See? And look, that's an Edomite. That's a spirit. See? That's, look, asshole driving and training. That's Esau. Look, in a red fucking truck.
Red horse.
Pride. That's a spirit.
Red dragon.
That's a spirit right there, brothers. Okay, right. What were we reading? Finish. Yeah, finish Maccabees again.
The water. The water.
Thank you, brother.
There's extras in the bag.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have to get a cooler or something when we're out here too, you know. Yeah, we'll get one. Yeah, yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 1. I'm gonna start from the top. And verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes.
So would be a good study tool or good information in history for brothers to look up is the wars between Esau and Japhet, to have him overtake what you know as the land of Greece today and to identify as Greeks and also Romans, because Rome comes from a Japhite, Romulus, Remus and Romulus. Okay, let's keep going.
And it says the first over Greece and made many wars and won many strongholds.
Right, so he made wars with who? Japhet. He made wars with who? The Iranians, the Persians. Okay, and he defeated all them because the Lord was with him. Keep going.
And it says
this is how America got established. Okay, America got established the same way Greece got established, the same way Rome got established. All right, keep going.
And it says, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him.
See, he made the earth quiet. Who else made the earth quiet? The new beast that represents the first. All right, America. America did the same thing. It's spoken about in Revelation 13. He made fire come down from heaven in the sight of men. Great fear fell upon them. The fire coming down, that's the Manhattan Project. Who did that? Esau. During what? The Second War. After he commissioned gold to back the dollar. So he bombed those places so he can put his money in there so people be forced to use his dollar.
Right.
World dominance through the dollar. He destroys you and then says, here, I'll give you some money to rebuild. That's what he does to you.
Order out of chaos.
Order out of chaos. Keep going.
And it says that the earth was quiet, that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
Yep.
And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him.
They became tributary. What is tributary? A slave. They became slaves under him and having to pay tribute or work with tribute. When we were in Egypt, we were under tributary. And you know what they paid us with? Beer. Your brothers know that? They used to pay us with beer. Just like Jake today. What's he cleave to? After a hard day at work, hand in, my man, married with children.
Yep.
Put the hand in, sip the beer, sit on the couch.
So this thing 10
Romans paid you with salt. That's where you get the term salary. You see? Always tributary. Esau's always put you under his foot. Just like Joshua did. Put you under the foot.
Maccabees.
You were Maccabees.
Which chapter?
The first.
First chapter.
Keep reading.
Page 113. And it says, verse 4, verse 5.
Read all the way down till it goes to the generals, then we jump back to Daniel.
Verse 5. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth,
Oh, well, now we got to look up. Did King Alexander have any sons? Who's got a smartphone? Who's got a Urim and Thummim? Let's look it up. Did King Alexander have sons? Because why didn't his kingdom get translated to his offspring? Did he have offspring, or was he a Mo? You know, because they portray that, right? And what in the movies, and what sickness did befall him? So let's see. Did it say he had sons?
It said no.
What? What?
It said no heir had been appointed to the throne.
Why? So the Lord made him a Mo. So he wouldn't transition his rulership to his son, but to the generals. What's a general known for? War. It said in the song by Black Sabbath, War Pigs, it says war generals gathering like witches at the black masses. See? Same thing. War generals gathering just like witches at a black masses. Same thing.
It's a ritual.
It's a ritual. So that's why King Alexander did not have children, because the Lord had a prophecy it would go to 4 wings. The Lord set it up for it to be dispersed to the Ptolemies and the Seleucids and the Epiphanies and the Cassanders.
It was prophesied that Antiochus would come.
Man, hey, so that proves the Lord controls if you have children or not. Tells you that in Psalms. So the Lord might not you have children for a strategic war move. And you see that. My man Lorenz Tate said in Dead Presidents, I don't want to see, I'm at war. As soon as I see her, I'm dead. See? Finish that to the general, please.
Back in 1 Maccabees 1 and verse 6.
Y'all familiar with the insurance company? The general? Yeah, call the general. As an Edomite. Those generals today were generals during the Greeks, during the Romans. Same thing. Same thing.
1 Maccabees 1 and 6. It says, wherefore.
Now why is this beast so important? Why is the beast that is known as the leopard so important for history? Because it was prophesied the abomination of desolation. Through this beast came the stop of sacrifice, which then turned the nation of Israel, for the most part, into Gentiles. You see? It all ties in. Prophecy plays a major part. With the abomination of desolation to take away sacrifice that took away your heritage, Jeremiah 17, for they shall discontinue their heritage. And Esau partook in that. Obadiah. Get Obadiah and get verse 12. Esau made us Gentiles. Esau's going to be judged for that.
The Greek-speaking Jew.
Yep.
The Hellenistic.
If you could, please, brother, get Obadiah in verse 12. Let's see what that says. You could really start at 10.
Okay. This is the book of Obadiah.
Which
Chapter 1, starting at verse 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob,
For the violence against thy brother Jacob.
shame shall cover thee,
Yep.
and thou shalt be cut off forever.
Keep going.
In that day that thou stoodest on the other side,
Keep going.
in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces.
Wait. In the day that the strangers, the other nations, carried away the captives and his forces, because Esau was watching when the Babylonians took us down, and they said, raise it, raise it. All right, keep going.
And foreigners entered into his gates.
Which the Babylonian Empire was the Assyrians. Under Nebuchadnezzar, which you can read Jeremiah 52, and then you can read, what's that, brother? 2 Chronicles 25. Read both those accounts, and it goes into our destruction. Do you know when the Assyrians took down Israel and besieged Jerusalem, our temple, they plucked out the eyes of King Hezekiah? But before they did, they killed his sons in front of him. But you know why they plucked out his eyes? Because it said he did evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord did that. Keep going.
Verse 11. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces,
Now keep going.
and foreigners entered into his gates and
Yep.
cast lots upon Jerusalem,
Keep going.
even thou wast as one of them.
Yo, he partook in it. Keep going though.
But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger.
Whoa! Whoa, read that again. What's that? What did it say? You became a stranger to your commonwealth? You became a Gentile? So Esau partook in our Gentilization.
Our downfall.
All right? Read it again.
Verse 12, but thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger.
Now that's a precept to what? Isaiah 14. and the strangers shall cleave to the house of Israel. We are strangers. So that proves Isaiah 14:1 is speaking about Israel when it refers to the stranger. Keep going.
Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction.
Yep.
Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress.
Now that's the point. Now, are you in the blue letter?
I can get it.
Go to the blue letter, and I want you to read this loud. Sometimes it's edifying to read translations. Watch this. So go to verse 12, okay? And then read the, let me see. Maybe it's, is it verse 12?
What version?
Or maybe it's 10.
The NLT.
Yeah. What are you reading?
Got this right here, NLT.
All right. No, there's an actual translation that when you read it, it says that he carried away his relatives.
That's in Obadiah.
Yeah, but it's in a translation. I think it's 12.
Right
you got it? The water.
It's the NLT.
Yes.
Yep.
Now watch. Read the NLT version. The water, brother.
Now this is the book of Obadiah 1 and verse 12 of the NLT, and it says, "You should not have gloated when they exiled your relatives."
When they exiled your relatives. Esau's being judged for what he did to his relatives. Now, speaking of relatives, you want to know a fun fact spiritually? Look who's all ruling today. It's all Shemites. Moab, Shem. Esau, Shem. Jacob, Shem. Ishmael, Shem. All Shemites. So the Lord, that proves the Lord is dealing with in particular lineages.
You know the Lord don't like Ham.
Ham ain't ruling.
Right.
The closest Ham was ruling when they yelled Wakanda forever. Or the only reason a Ham is relevant is because Jacob's over there. And what the fuck is a Japhite right now? Nothing, right? Ain't nobody afraid of no Japhite.
Making Polynesian sauce right now.
Yeah, for Chick-fil-A. Ain't nobody worried about no Japhite right now. It's all Shem. Better watch out for Moab. Better watch out for Edom. Better watch out for that wild man Ishmael. And you better watch out for Jacob. It's all Shem right now. So going back, but what relative? His direct relative, which was his brother. So read this again.
It says, "You should not have gloated when they exiled your relatives to distant lands."
When you go to a distant land, you become a Gentile. Keep going.
It says,
and then with the Greeks, they were Hellenized. Hellenistus. Yep, keep going.
it says, "You should not have rejoiced when the people of Judah suffered such misfortune."
All right, let this go. Jakes like that don't know that they're in war. They're actually a casualty of war. A Gentile is a casualty of war. They're collateral damage. That's collateral damage right there. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea of the continuing war that Jacob and Esau have had. If there's a continuing war between the house of Saul and the house of David, how much more the continuing war between the house of Jacob and the house of Esau? Obadiah is a prime example of that. So let's finish that and let's get back into history.
It says, you should not have rejoiced when the people of Judah suffer much misfortune. You should not have spoken arrogantly in that terrible time of trouble.
That's the point. Now go back to Maccabees and finish that.
Back in Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 6, wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable.
Right, because he didn't have a son, because it's rumored he was a Mo, right? So he had to what? He had to transition his power to his standing generals. And why? Going back to Daniel 7, the vision, which we got to go back because we got to go into Romans and we got to go into America, which then will lead to what? The dollar and the wars. Okay? So this transition of power, all right, was because King David or King Alexander the Great, King Alexander the Greek didn't have any sons. So who's the next best thing to a son? You know what proves that? What's the movie Gladiator? What did he do in the movie Gladiator? Remember he wanted Maximus to rule and not his son. See, right? And then his son found out and killed his own dad. Read this.
And it says, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth and part of his kingdom among them.
It says they were honorable from his youth. So these are men that were brought up with King Alexander. You had that. That's a Greek custom. They're called damn, what are they called again? We went into it. When when a child is too young to rule, they have people in their place. What's the thing we take? What's the test we do? What's the fucking test? No, what's the test you do? Regents. The regents. So you have regents that will stand up in your stead for you. So some of these generals were regents to King Alexander the Greek. All right, because it said they grew up with him. So keep reading.
And it says, and part of his kingdom among them while he was yet alive.
Yeah.
Verse 7.
So he chose certain generals to be rulers. And we know through history what generals were they. Well, ultimately, Cassander, Seleucus, Ptolemy, and Epiphanes. Yep. All right. And what out of them generals? Well, what out of these generals, what lineage of Edomites ultimately was set up to was prophesied as the abomination of desolation under the rulership of the Epiphanes? Because we was cool with Ptolemy. Ptolemy Philadelphus gave us money, you know, and that's how you came up with the Septuagint. See, they went to Egypt for help, you know, and you got a lot of guys today. Oh, let me say this since I'm about to speak about priests. Eleazar is not a zealot. Eleazar is a wicked high chief priest. Okay, Eleazar is a wicked high chief priest that was back then. He's not a zealot. He's not a zealot. So Eleazar partook in our Hellenization. The priest that accepted the money from Ptolemy Philadelphus' name was Eleazar.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
It was though. It is.
So it might have been you, my man. You might have partook in our Hellenization, and your ass don't even know it.
Then he just self-proclaimed himself as the top priest of Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. But mind you, Yahweh Shai is our chief priest. Our high priest, excuse me. Whatever though, let's focus on, but it adds in because you got to remember you had wicked high chief priests that made leagues with the Greeks. That's how you have the Septuagint today, okay? So the Septuagint is valid, all right, Captain Tazariak? Your ass don't know history. Keep going.
Back in Maccabees 1 and verse 7, and it says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place.
Yep.
And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves,
yep,
so that their sons after them many years.
And you know what they did? They continued to wage war, wickedness. Thank you, you as well, sister. He continued to wage war and wickedness upon us. Because, yo, you gonna get it, brother? Where it says, when the evil is multiplied.
That's right here, yeah.
Get that and let's get back into it.
And it says, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
Why? Keep going.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, a surnamed Epiphanes.
There you go. So out of the four generals, one of the most wickedest ones was Antiochus the Epiphanes. But which Antiochus Epiphanes? The fourth. Because, the first, second, and third were cool. They wasn't tripping.